Hello, I'd like to show you Wish. Wish is similar to the journal I made before this one, but she is a bit smaller, but just as chunky. She's made from an old book. It's over 100 years old, and it was a well-loved book. How I know that is because it was a Christmas gift to somebody, and then I saw that the person's one of the people that was given to had written their name in the book. And because it's a children's book, because the writing was mature writing, it looks like they kept the book for a long time. The book was very worn in parts, falling apart, and there was only 2 pictures left of the 6 that were in it, and this was one of them, and I decided to give it a place of honor at the front. And it looks like it's children's hour here for sure. There's the family dog and 3 lovely children and Dad sitting in the armchair surrounded by books. Oh yes, a family that loves books. That is a good kind of family to be. On the spine, I didn't want to cover this up. It says folk stories and fables. And under here, the ribbon, it says the children's hour. I think this is leather. On the back, you can see, yes, how loved this book was. I don't have the complete set, but I think I got 6 or 8 of these, and this one was the most worn and the one that I thought, okay, since it's falling apart anyways, there's pages missing, there was crayon coloring in it as well, I thought it would be okay to make a journal out of it. I included a tassel with a button and a bead that just go perfect together. Some beads on the tassel as well. And here's the charm. It was one that my daughter gave me that inspired the name Wish. It says on here, Wish. There's dandelion seeds in there. So this journal, the focus of it is nature, vintage vibe, cottage vibe, and there's children in here as well, and adults. But I wanted it to be, yeah, cozy, charming, and yeah, cherished. This ribbon is tea dyed, and I put it on right away. I made the whole cover right away so it could have a nice worn look to it by the time I was done, and it does. This is tea dyed tulle, a charm from some jewelry that I was able to get, a bag of broken jewelry from a thrift store. This is vintage, what do you call this? Vintage bias tape. Has some, I guess, crochet. I'm not sure what you call that on the edge, or tatting, but very delicate. And then I added some lace around the edge too. Okay, Wish is 5 3/4 inches wide, 8 1/2 tall. The spine was just under 2 inches wide. She has 3 signatures. And what I do when I'm using this, when I use my own journals too, I often have them on my lap, and I might have a pillow on my lap just to help this to lie flat, nice and easy. And she has, I reinforced the spine. I put in some cardstock, quite thick cardstock, and of course fabric. So she's in good shape. She will last easily another 100 years. And some tea dyed fabric here, cotton, and I forget what you call that. And because it's a little bit of a children's theme to it, I thought this card would go perfect in it. Look at these little sweetie cakes. I guess this must be, I don't know, is this a daycare, or hopefully it's not an orphanage, but if it is, they're very well taken care of. And it's from London, courtesy of a museum there, or art library. And it's not dyed, you can write inside, it's blank. Here I have a vintage button there. And here we have a mix of nature and a little child or fairy here for journaling on the back. And I made this from, keep finding more of this. I have these silk samples. I made a little book with a vintage button there, a leaf pendant, and a little orb charm, and a little owl charm to go with the nature theme. The other thing that inspired this book is I'm reading or rereading A Girl of the Limberlost, and yeah, I don't know if you know anything about that book, but it's a really old book, and a page fell out of it last night. It's really old. It's been read several times by my daughter, and then I've read it twice now, or am reading it for the second time. So I'm not sure what I can do about that. I might have to make a journal out of it, but it's a really oldie too. Beautiful old cover. But in the book, you're constantly out in nature, and she's collecting things like moths and butterflies and cocoons, and yeah, so this is inspired a little bit by that too, the fact that I'm reading it right now. Lots of tea-dyed stationery in this one. Here's a place to put your name, but I turned it into a journal card rather than sticking it somewhere in the book, but you still could. In fact, yeah, and there's a little tuck spot in there too. I didn't fill every pocket, well, nearly every pocket, because as you can see, oh my, yeah, chunky. Hi, Deja. Here's Deja's tail. She's just saying hello. Well, she settles down for her long morning nap. Tea-dyed cardstock there. Envelope. Yeah, I'm surprised there isn't a book there too. That looks like a lovely spot to read a book together. Tea-dyed wrapping paper made into a faux envelope for writing space. Just opens right up. And here we've got a little tuck spot for a cottage card from the UK, and a flip here for writing on. Rose on there. Yes, and oh, butterflies and moths. That's what you read about in A Girl from the Limberlost. And this is naturally aged. This was from a little dictionary that I had. I realized it wasn't using. Cat hair floating by. I don't know if you can see that. And on this side, we've got a little tea-dyed bag. Made it into a tuck spot, front here. And then inside, we have a little tally book with some tea-dyed paper in it to make it into a journaling spot. And that's a journaling card too. And this is from a tea-dyed paper from a book. And this is from a travel diary. It's a vintage one. Very sweet diary. Oh yes, and here's the name of one of the children. Now that doesn't look like a children's signature. And later you'll see that this book was given to this person and to the other person. I guess a sister and brother, or two sisters, I don't know. The Children's Hour. So this is from the original book. And it says here, copyright 1907. Here's a little flip. The hidden journal card there. I've used this card before. I just love this picture. Little girl Alice, and she's doing her knitting. And this paper here is something, I rarely buy new stuff for journaling, but I kept seeing this beautiful wallpaper on one of the YouTube channels I follow, and then I looked it up, and you're able to get scrapbook paper of William Moore's wallpaper. So that's new, but it's been tea-dyed. And this is a tea-dyed scan of one of my little watercolors. This rose, oh my, this climbs on our fence, the front garden. It's a rock rose, that's a common name for it. And it's nice because it doesn't have prickles. It doesn't have thorns, but it has a sweet fragrance. It's a tea-dyed greeting card made into a journal card, vintage, lace. And this is tea-dye picture from a gift book, children outside. where they belong, playing as much as they can. And tea-dyed greeting card here. That looked really old-fashioned. And there's a vintage playing card. And here's a vintage playing card on this side too. Made a little double tag, and I got that from one of the flip-throughs I watched earlier this week. And this here I did with, I think this one's with coffee, and one of my plastic doilies. And just to, I don't know, just to rebel a little bit, since I always try to make things all straight, I decided to stick this in crooked. And this here, I think this was a naturally aged paper. I can't remember, or if I tea-dyed that. No, I tea-dyed that because it's my smaller stuff that's naturally aged. Yeah, I love this index. Was it index paper from those little adding machines? They're handy. Here's some tea-dyed paper. It's quite thick, so I'm wondering if this is from packaging that I've collected it from. And this I did with a plastic doily, a different one. Same with this. And this lovely fabric here comes in a roll, and it looked like it hadn't even been used yet. Made in, so I think it's vintage because it says made in West Germany. Don't have East and West Germany really anymore. It's just Germany now. And this picture here is tea-dyed, and it's from a magazine. It's from a Focus on the Family magazine. The children under the table, and they're baking pies, and oh, that looks just so cozy. It looks like there's at least 1, 2, 3 generations there. I stamped on those to create little journal cards. And this here is nice sturdy paper that's used by stamp collectors. That's one of my thrift store finds. And because this is called Wish and it has the dandelion seeds, I decided I needed to include a little bit about dandelions here. And this is vintage, an old gardening encyclopedia. And here's a vintage engagement paper from an old address book that I have. So the information about the dandelion starts here. I love the sketching they've done. And this is a postcard from Alaska. Journaling card, so it's blank on the back. Curtain material from a sample book. And this has also got blank on the back too. And here's another original page from this book. The Children's Hour, 9 volumes, but I only have, I think, 6. I don't have all of them. Yeah, so it says for Sydney and Ralph from Maura and Daddy, Christmas 1912. And that signature that we saw, this other page, you can see the writing is not the same writing as this. So I suspect he or she wrote that. I know Sydney can be a name for a lady or a man. Beautiful old paper, so it's over 100 years old. Here I made a faux wax seal, and I got this idea off of a tutorial too. Mine, of course, don't look as good, but hey, I did it. So it's using hot glue and a fern from my garden, and then I just painted it with some gold around the edge. Just love this set of greeting cards. Playing cards. I'll probably be putting this in every journal. But I made it into a journaling spot. Since it's a journal that's a little bit focused on nature and children, I thought that would go good in here. And this is from I guess a day book. And I tea-dyed it, and I like how the tea dye came out on that one. People don't write letters that much anymore, so it's really easy to come across stationery at the thrift store that's, a lot of it hasn't even been opened. This makes beautiful pages in a journal. There's a recipe card in here for writing on, blank on both sides. And speaking of stationery, I thought this was lovely. This is from a book on herbs. And sometimes I use some washi tape to strengthen pages that are vintage and a little on the thin side. And this was from a gift book. And I made this from a greeting card that had been cut up and was used for price tags on things from the thrift store. And where the little holes were, I just put some sparkles. But I just thought this was too nice just to toss into the recycle bin. And that goes with the theme here. And that's an original. That's not a copy. That's a little watercolor I did on some really heavy watercolor paper. Match this. I thought it'd be cute there. Here's a vintage postcard. There's children in it. Cottages. And it's from British Isles. Put it that way. There's tea-dyed wrapping paper, this here. And this is from a wildflower book. Rather than cover this up, I just added some papers to it to make journaling space and sewed it. Vintage lace here. Tea-dyed envelope, which definitely goes with the theme of this book, the butterflies. And on this side, I made, when I folded it over, using this space here for a tuck spot for journaling paper. Tea-dyed paper there. And a tuck spot under here. And here's some tags from the William Morris book. I just had to cut them out and glue them onto cardstock. And they're all blank. And you can write here too. A little ruffle with some buttons. I don't know if these are vintage, but I've had them in my collection for a while. And this was those cards I've shared before. I don't know if I had this exact one, but that's from the UK. It's blank inside. Have you read A Girl from the Limberlost? I'm curious what you think of it, and there's a movie too. But the movie's based on it, but the book's a lot different. It's well, the books are always better, but the book is definitely different than the movie. This here I did with a rhododendron leaf, and I used my rolling pin and pressed it to squeeze out some of the natural dye from the rhododendron, and then this has been tea dyed. So there's a few pages in here like that. This is made from a picture from a book. I think it's a book about, I'm remembering right. Oh no, this is a book about, it's a craft book. It had lovely, lovely things in it. And I was going to thrift the book because I didn't want it anymore. And then I went, oh, wait a second. It's full of beautiful pictures. In fact, that's where I got this. That one here is also from the same book. And that is nice quality paper, so it dyes really good too. Anyways, writing spot on the back. Vintage lace. Sticker from a thrift store package of crafting things. This is from a vintage mushroom book. And this is from a gift book I also thrifted. And I think this is a vintage button too. There's 3 of them. There's one on each of the tabs. And I thought it went really nice with the main color of this journal. Actually, I don't need... There. And this is also from a gift book. Little fairy. That's so sweet. Sewing the tansy flowers onto her little jacket. And this is from a vintage nature book. I actually read it to my kids when we were homeschooling. It's a family book. And it's got a tuck spot in there for, or pocket for journaling card. It's blank on both sides except for some stamping on the tops. And I thought this was good in here because it's nature and it's the parent feeding the child. That's sweet. This is a picture from a vintage book about children. Oh, adorable, adorable picture. And this was pressed Queen Anne's lace from my driveway. And I just added some cardstock, tea-dyed cardstock, and same with the background. Sewed around it to make a journal card. And I thought it went lovely with this page. I was going to keep this for my own journal, but when I saw how well it went with here, well, you know how it is. Yeah. Vintage lace, and this is from a book, a menu plan book. Entertaining. Something I'm not very good at, but I love having my family over for dinner. I get excited about when I cook something, you know, it's their favorite. There's the other part of that rhododendron. I don't know if you call that eco dyeing what I was doing, but just pressing with the rolling pin. And on this side, I've got another faux wax seal. It's hot glue with one of the flowers that I pressed from, yeah, that's one of those little mini daisies. I think it's a daisy from the lawn, because I purposely planted some of those little teeny English daisies, and they're starting to spread, and I'm so happy. It's under the willow tree. And then I also have Feverfew, so I don't know which one that is. Can't remember. And tea-dyed card. That's, who is that? Who did that one? Is it Monet? I don't remember. And this is a tuck spot made from a greeting card. And here's part of the greeting card used as a journaling card. And this is a vintage envelope, and this one didn't stick. I had to use it in a different way because it had stuck the other one I had. And then I found this I thought went nice in it. And it's perfect for journaling on, and it's definitely vintage. Looks like it's from the 70s, I'm guessing. And this, I don't know what this would be from. Maybe from the 70s as well. But I thought this all went good together. And on this side, I have a little kind of pockety thing I made out of this paper. This is already this color. I got a whole roll of it. It's just, yeah, a big roll of this kind of like newsprint, and it definitely has that old look to it already. So I thought I would make this out of it, and that's what I did. So I'll be making some more of those. I do have to be careful though where how I glue it. So I did have to reinforce the pocket there, because when I glued here and I went to put something in here, it tore, but not anymore. And now I think it actually looks better. That is one I did with some inks and some fern leaves from my garden. I sprayed them. Yeah, and that's the original. It's tea-dyed too. Little journal card. And that's just a plain journal card. And in here, it's an index card. I think this looks better for to have that there. It's one of those little happy accidents Bob Ross always talked about. And here, I just love this card set. I wanted to put one in here because, I mean, this journal is about children too, as well as nature. He's handing her a rose. So I put it on some paper that I had scanned and tea-dyed. This was one of my, oh, I forget what I used to do this. And this, I think, is not the color that I did it with. I think that is me playing with the editing thing on the photo thing I have, changing the color so I can make it any color I want. I think it was perfect with that. And a vintage paper clip. I'm wondering if it's copper. It's copper colored. Name was this metal. And then here's a little mini tag from the William Morris wallpaper stuff, and this is from a gift book. And I used an envelope flap to create a little tuck spot there. And there's some of that paper that I was saying that's naturally aged from not Rolodex, it's from those little adding machines. I don't know if anyone uses those anymore, but you find the rolls in the thrift store. So if you see one, grab it, because it's really handy for lining tags and things. And this was a scan. Oh, there's a tuck spot there. A scan of one of my little watercolors. And this is one of our not wisteria, clematis. Yeah, we have a white one and we have this humongous purple one, which I think is called Jackamani. I might be saying that wrong. And this is a copy of one of my little watercolors, and it's been tea dyed. It's journaling on the back. And here's another faux wax seal. This one turned out the best, nice and even. And I like the background because the background goes with the colors on this page. And this is also a copy of a watercolor, and this is one of the primulas from my garden. And this is a letterhead paper that I got from the thrift store, and I tea dyed that. Some stamping, lots of writing space. And this here, I don't know if it's vintage, but I tea dyed it because it was just bright white, and I love how it took up the dye. And I sewed it on there. And there's the other part of that card that had been cut up to use for attaching to the thrift store bag. And yeah, I thought it was too pretty not to do something with. And this is a really handy use for bias tape, because you can line something with it just to give it a little more character. And here's a card that was put out by a fundraiser with nature and a child. I thought was perfect for the theme of this book. And there's one of my little tea dye copy, one of my watercolors, and I did this picture. I sketched and painted it from a photograph I took of a bouquet that was at a public garden in our valley. And this one here, oh, just love these flowers. I wonder if that's a Tibetan poppy. Blue poppies, those are really hard to grow, hard to get to germinate. And I did get some to germinate, and I forgot about them. This is years ago, and then they died before I could put them out in the garden. But I know I'm not alone. They're not easy to get going. Butterflies, oh yes. The girl of the Limberlost would love this page. And so this is a greeting card made into a journal card, and this is vintage trim here. And not very often I'll get to use this color, but it had to go on this page for sure. This is from a butterfly book, and I tea dyed that. And here's a picture, postcard. It says school days, and oh my goodness. Yeah, I wonder if that's what the school was like that the girl from Limberlost went to. It looks like an old, I don't know if it's vintage or not. Well, but the color of it on the back, maybe. That's definitely an old-fashioned picture. I put some washi tape there to keep with the theme of the butterflies. The girl from Limberlost. And when I saw this yellow, I went, yes, it's a perfect opportunity to use some other yellow pages. And this is from a book, a children's book. I put a little tag in there for journaling. And this is from a bird book. I put some yellow lace on here. And this is also from a card that had been cut up. I rescued that. Yeah, from the children's book. And a postcard, Butterfly World. Little journaling spot here. And that was a nice, cheerful, fun page to do. And this one here, this is from, I think, a magazine. And then I put it onto an old book page, very old book page. And I put some tea bag on it with, I think, Mod Podge. And backed it onto tea dye cardstock and sewed around it. Added some trim from my scrap bin of little bits of fabric and stuff. There's another reminder of the girl of the Limberlost. Oh, what a sweet little dog. And here's a page from the book. This page was in the book but not attached to the book anymore, and you can see the crayon coloring here. So I wonder if the fellow who signed the book, if that's what he did when he was little. Maybe one of his own children did that, or her own children did that. From the butterfly book. And here's one of those cards from the UK that I don't want to do anything to because they're just, I think they're vintage and they're sweet. Just the way they are. And there's some vintage trim, yellow. And I thought this went really nice with the echo dyeing that I did here. This is washi tape that's helping to strengthen the page on this one spot. And I like that idea. You can see there the page is weak, but it's okay now. And there's a big bit of rhododendron. And this is from the book that's under here, The Country Diary of an Edwardian Lady, Edith Holden. I have a large one and I have a small one, so this small one fit this book. Whereas the book I made before this had room for the ones from the larger book. And this was from, I think, a day book. And I tea-dyed this paper and put it on cardstock. And this is vintage trim here. Tag made from some leftover, I had decoupaged some napkin onto some baker's paper. That's why it's quite dark. Sewed around it, put on some vintage seam binding. And there's that vintage bias tape on there. And this is a tea-dyed copy of a card that I made. I don't know how long ago I made this. Sometime last year. And I don't know, I just liked it. It's my little watercolor and a little stamping I did. And yeah. The original, I think, is in somebody's journal. Or maybe it's one of the journals that hasn't sold. I don't know. This here is hand painted, and it says it was made in the UK. I did tea dye it, but I think it's a darling. It goes good on this page. Checklist, notes, says here. Here's a little booklet I made. We're on the last page now. And this I did with probably coffee and doilies, or tea and doilies. I don't remember plastic doily. Okay, no, was that plastic doily? Oh no, that was paper doily. Yes, and I did that with coffee. Is that the original? Yeah, it is. It's got some tea-dyed paper inside. Tea-dyed writing paper that has faint print of flowers on it. Vintage button there. And here, I made a little journaling spot out of flowers from the Wildflower book. She's pretty heavy because of the hardcover. But yeah, not too heavy to pack around though. So have you read the book, A Girl of the Limberlost? Yeah, even though I'd read it before, I feel like I'm reading it for the first time because I couldn't remember all the things that happened. Some things in it are really sad and some things in it are really happy, and I can't remember if it ends happy or not. But I'll find out. I'm a slow reader. I read at bedtime, which means I usually get sleepy after about a chapter. In fact, it's not good for me to read super fast-paced, exciting books at bedtime because I'll stay up too late if I get really into the story. So there's beads here and a couple of chains and the wish charm. Take care. Thank you for watching. And I don't know about you, but I'm really enjoying the cooler weather because parts of summer were pretty hot. And now my cats want to sit on my lap because it's a little coolish in the house. Not cold, but you know how cats are. And I don't mind at all. Take care. Well, actually, only one cat sits on my lap. The other one likes to sit nearby, like Deja's right beside me right now. The other one likes to sit on my lap, which works out good because then my lap is always available for honey. Take care. Bye.